name is Owen Martin. I'm from Troop 418, Greenfield, New York. Here I am with my friend John Mahalik, and we are interviewing Tom Duffy as part of my Eagle project. I'm working with the Veterans Breakfast Club to interview them. And why don't you get started and tell us a little about yourself and your service?
Well, when I was 17 in high school, I joined the Navy Reserve. So I put 2 years in, 17 and 18, in the Navy Reserve. When I graduated in 1959, I went active duty in the Navy on a tin can. For the uneducated, the tin can is a destroyer. I was on a demolition destroyer radar, DDR, and the number was 881, USS Bordelon. It was named after a U.S. Marine who won the Medal of Honor at Guadalcanal posthumously. It was a good ship. I was on her 2 years, traveled the world, got to see sights that you normally don't get to see. And you learn a lot. Remember, I started out, I was 18, so, it's quite an education. Fast forward to the 60s, got out of the Navy, back to the Reserve, got bored. So I said, well, I'll get away from the water. And so I joined the Army. Ironically, karma being what it is, I said, get away from the water? Yeah, in the pig's eye. My second unit was a float bridge company, combat engineers in Germany. And the skipper of the company looked at my file and thought, oh, he'd been in the Navy. Since it was a float bridge company, we had about 10 boats. Guess who ended up as boat commander? Because I had Navy experience. So I'm back on the water. Talk about karma. Slapped me right ahead. So I spent about 8 years in the combat engineers, everything from construction engineers to demolition, build road, blow them up, things like that. My last 2 years in the service, I was hooked into, I always refer to it as the oxymoron department, which is military intelligence, definitely oxymoron sometimes. And the Army being what it is, decided to send this good Irish-German boy to language school to learn Chinese, which is fine, but I spoke German. So while I'm lying, good Irish-German boy learning Chinese, in this room over here next door was the Chinese-American kids learning how to speak German. And I don't know where they got sent, but since I learned Chinese, they sent me to Korea where I couldn't use the Chinese. So, typical American Army. If you're a surgeon in real life, they'll make you an auto mechanic. And if you're an auto mechanic, they'll probably make you a surgeon. So I spent the last couple of years in counterintelligence. I worked in Korea, in the Far East, I worked with over there, their combat police, which is provincial police, which doubles as it's a paramilitary unit. What they do, they catch not just criminals, they work on the saboteur and assassination teams that still are sent down from North Korea into South Korea. And so we spent some time with them running around the mountains looking for these guys. I also worked with the Coast Guard there, Maritime Police. And a couple times I was with the ROC Marines, the Republic of Korea Marines, and the Tiger Division. And we decided to go for a short stay, and I'd leave Korea and suddenly find myself in paradise called Vietnam, a couple of weeks at a time, and didn't exist there. I'm stationed in Korea, so I don't count as a tour yet. But it was interesting working with the Koreans. They're a lot tougher on crime and other things than we are here, that's for sure. At the time I was there, if you dealt drugs and sold them to children, any child under 18, it was an automatic death penalty, because when they prosecuted you, they said that if you sell drugs to a youth, you've killed them psychically where they will not be a productive adult. Therefore, you're guilty of murder. And it's quite effective. quite effective. On the light side, I can recall sitting in my office and getting a phone call from the chief of police in Busan. Apparently, two hippies, young men, that got off the plane in Busan. And the first thing they did with their long-haired flower children look, they walked up to the civilian. And they asked him, where can they buy some drugs? Of course, he was an undercover Korean policeman. So the chief called me and says, we really don't want to, keep bad relations, And he said, I don't know what to do. Why don't you come down? I was the highest federal agent right there in the agent era. So I went over, and he had been hanging around me for a while. He developed a little of my sense of humor. So what they did, they took a picture of them with their long hair and the way they were dressed. Took them out, they gave them a haircut, military style. Cleaned them all up, put them in real nice clothes. Took another picture, and the headline said, you sent us your children looking like this. We have cleaned them up, and we're sending them back to you in better condition than we received them. They put them on a plane, sent them home. I understand they got arrested, but they got to San Francisco. But it was sort of a cheeky side of humor. I got a kick out of it. So the Koreans. But yeah, it was a lot different. I would imagine now, 50 years later, it's a lot different in Korea. I'm pretty sure they got everything watered down like we have here as far as rules go. But I had a good time. I had about 15 years in the service. I survived the good and the bad. And service is not for everybody. It depends on what you expect. War is not glamorous, not at all. And if you have that kind of an idea in your head, don't even bother thinking about going to the military. No. Anything else? Do you have a question?
Do you not recommend people my age and older to join the military?
Depends what you want. I don't make a recommendation. You have to make that own decision yourself. You have to look at, what's the good going to be. You don't want to, you never join something with the idea of fame and glory. Now, that doesn't exist. That's in textbooks, comic books, and Hollywood, all right? It's a job. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's downright nasty, and you could get killed, or worse yet, maimed pretty bad. If you're doing it because there's a situation for freedom, protect the country, yeah, that's the thing. But if you're looking for glory, no, it's the wrong reason. It is a job. You get a good education, and if you want to pick a occupational specialty, MOS we call it, military occupational specialty. Pick something that you can use outside the military life, not just, something that's you enjoy doing, all right, but is it going to help you outside? When you come out of the service and all you know how to do is blow up bridges, there's not much open for that. Maybe the mafia, I don't know, but education-wise, we've had locals that I know. Girl graduated with my daughter high school, spent 20 years in the service. She went in the Air Force, liked dentistry. They sent her to dental school. She's a dental technician. She can make false teeth and all that good stuff. She's got a great job. She come on after 20 years. She got military pay. And she's working in the dental place and she's making good bucks. Communications, computer stuff. And things like that. Medical, I cross-trained some medical, came in handy over the years. So recommendation, no, you got to make that decision yourself. Anything else?
Do you have a positive or negative experience overall?
Overall, Yeah, it's 50-50. Some things are funny, you know. Like a friend of mine in Special Forces thought he was a linguist. You know, always had the book out. And the story come back to me. They were being chased by Charlie and then these guys were all Special Forces. And they were getting close, and he turned around and went to fire to hold them back and hit a dead chamber. You know, I don't know what happened, but he thought he yelled out, "Halt or I'll fire," in Vietnamese. And they all stopped. They looked at him, stunned. He jumped in the helicopter. They left. They found out later what he'd done. He said it wrong. He said, "Welcome to my house." And it kind of stunned the enemy. They just like looked at him like, "What are you nuts?" You know. They had a good laugh about that. If I remember correctly, one of them wrote it up and sent it into Reader's Digest. They told me it made the military funniest things that happened. Things like that happened. Had another friend. They were going raining like heck, and I got this story secondhand. And they were all in the road going through this rainstorm, lightning stuff going on. And apparently they came to a Y in the road in the jungle trail. They merged with the Recon patrol. And one of the guys happened to turn around during the flash and realized the guy behind him was Vietnamese. And of course the Vietnamese realized it was American. And apparently everybody screamed and they all jumped different ways. Now the shot was fired. They all were too stunned. That was one of the humorous things that happened. I got this, I laughed because I could just see that happen, you know. Those are humorous things. The rest is not always humorous. You know. So, yeah, I would say 50-50, depends. Because I've had things happen to me, shouldn't happen to a dog, but, you know, we won't go over that. Anything else?
If you were young again, would you do it all over?
Probably. You know, I'm not too bright. I understand what you're saying. Yeah, as far as, you know, getting into the hot stuff, I actually got shot at more in Korea than I did in Vietnam. Because I would go with the police to collect these people up in the mountains. And, yeah, I got shot at a couple times. You know, they missed it. But Vietnam, when I visited, I was fairly lucky. I was in the Korean controlled area, you know, and it wasn't bad.
I heard they were pretty vicious as far as
They're tough. Yeah, they
the
are tough.
Koreans in Vietnam. The Vietnamese were extremely afraid of that unit.
Yeah, they tell the story about them surrounding the communist village. I wasn't there for that, so I can't verify it. But they surrounded the village and they told them that there's no Americans here. We're giving you 1 hour to give up your communist cadre, or there won't be a village. And they told them the Vietnamese believed them. Within an hour, they marched the communist controlled people out just to save the village. So they don't mess around. They're tough. They are definitely tough. And good soldiers. The discipline in the Korean Army would go in the American military, guarantee you that. It's not, you were a private, you mess up, some sergeant would beat the holy living pajamas out of you, you know, or an officer, you know, you don't mess with them. Worst time I saw them upset was when their generator stopped working and they couldn't figure out what happened. I guess the Vietnamese, I don't even think it was communist. The Vietnamese hooked some wire somehow to the generator without interrupting it. It was a long lead, and they had a 50-yard lead before they ran out of wire. And then the generator stopped. They were already 50 yards away, carrying the generator running like 80s before they figured out the generator was gone. Very ingenious. So, yeah, but the Korean military, tough. Felt very safe when I was with them.
Did you do any training with them?
I ran with them, yeah. You got to keep up with them. Back then I could. Forget it now.
A couple of Marines that I spoke to that had a lot of contact.
What's that?
A couple of Marines I spoke to Korea era that had a lot of contact with the ROK, so they really enjoyed when they were, I guess, with them because the diet completely changed. Did you get to join in on their canteen versus?
I begin to love rice. I eat a lot of rice even today. I'd rather have rice than anything else. I got used to kimchi, a few other niceties. I lived their diet, and I found myself when I was in Korea, I ate more downtown on the restaurants than I did at base, So, and to this day, I still prefer the Oriental food a lot of times. So, I spent too long over there, I guess.
Did you ever go back?
Would I go back? Yeah, I don't know.
You never had. Never done a revisit program or anything?
I'd love to visit. I would have loved to visit Vietnam
Okay.
because it is a beautiful country. As long as the lead mosquitoes aren't flying, as I refer to them, it'd be a nice place. Some beautiful places over there. In fact, there's a local fellow from Glens Falls. He had a newsroom down in Glens Falls. He married a Vietnamese girl, and he went back and he built a beautiful home in an area that back then was all BC. And that's where his wife's family came from, So he showed me pictures of it. I think it said it cost him about $5,000, but the whole thing was mahogany floors and it was absolutely beautiful pictures. So, and that's been 30 years. I don't even know if he's still alive. Jimmy. Now, I'd like to go back. There's a lot of places I'd like to visit. I'd like to go back to Spain, Germany. North Africa was nice. I like a couple of places in North Africa. And there was some of them I'd like to go back to. I made it to quite a few of the countries because of the service. That's one great thing, to get to meet people from all walks of life, every country.
Is that mainly because of the Navy, or did you meet a lot of countries through the Navy?
Well, I spent most of it the Army. Navy, we visited a lot of ports. You don't get out of ports too much. I was able to get to Rome a couple times. Later on in the Army, I managed to travel all over Europe. So they, don't, if you do travel, don't be an ugly American. Learn what I call the honorifics when you go to visit a country, which is honorifics, hello, thank you, please, something that we forget. And we have to remember, you don't speak the language, and yelling in English does not help them understand in whatever language they speak. And Americans seem to think the louder they talk in English, somebody's going to understand them. I think there should be an intelligence test before someone go overseas. Learn the customs of these different countries. Some countries, if you pat a child on the head, which Americans like to do, aren't they cute? The pat on the head, that's taboo. You don't do that. It causes a lot of problems. Some countries, when you sit, we like to sit with our feet crossed, Yeah. And in some countries, if you show the bottom of your feet to natives, it's a big insult. You're going to cause a problem. So learn the different customs before you visit any country. And you're representing our country. And I can remember a funny story was I was in Frankfurt in Germany. My German back then, probably pretty good, but I didn't think I could pass, with a real German. And there was this woman and her husband, I think Jersey someplace. It sounds like Jersey. And loud as could be. What's the matter with these crowds? Can't they speak English? Now, most people in Europe speak 2, 3 languages. So here's this American, black like that. The maitre d' handled her very well. And I'm thinking, I don't want to admit I'm American. I need a cab. So I fell back on my childhood, and he turned around to me and said, yes. I said, well, begging your pardon, sir. I said, could you call me a cab to go to the Bahnhof? His face lit up. He got me a cab. I escaped without being an American. Nobody hates the Irish over there. No one hates the Irish. So I escaped good. And so if you can't do that, be polite. Anything else?
In the Navy, did you go through a shellback initiation?
No.
Did you see any?
No. We didn't go.
Okay.
We didn't go over. Yeah. No. No, we didn't. We did a med cruise. We only went far south in Bahama, Bermuda. We didn't cross over the line. If we'd have crossed over the line, then we'd have met the Greasy King. Anything else?
Do you prefer Korea or Vietnam? Wartime?
Do what now?
Do you prefer either? Like, if you were to go back, would you go to Korea or Vietnam in wartime?
I like it. As I said, I'd love to visit Vietnam. As long as the lead mosquitoes are no longer, flying. You know what lead mosquitoes are, don't you?
Are those the really big
Bullets.
Yeah.
Nobody's shooting at you. It's a nice place to visit. But yeah, it's hot though. You can't believe the heat. So but that's one place I would also like to go back. I've been in Taiwan, so I'd like to go back to Taiwan. So other than that, it's not bad.
How has the service changed over the years since you joined?
I think they're too politically correct in most cases. Okay. I was visiting Camp Drum, or Fort Drum, when my son-in-law came back from Iraq. They were stationed up there. And the way I heard some of the enlisted talking to the sergeant, thinking to myself, I wouldn't fly in the old army because somebody did that to me. I'd have them up behind the tool shed for an attitude adjustment. But you can't do that now. No, they would not fly. I think the special units are pretty strong. The Rangers and Recon, those guys are pretty strict. But when I saw the rank and file, I think the discipline is different. I don't think they have as much discipline as they would. And I don't know why. It used to be that the NCO Corps was the backbone of the service. And from what I've seen, trips up the various units since then, the last 15 years, quite a change.
Do you come from a military family?
And my father was Air Force career, but my folks were divorced, so I didn't get too much of that.
And you said your son served in Iraq. You said your son is in Iraq.
No, I didn't have a son. My father was.
Father.
Or my son-in-law. He went to Iraq twice. So he was a communication common. So he made it back. He did 20 years.
I don't have any more questions. I think we're good. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for your service. This has been good. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I hope this helps you a little bit.
Yeah. Thank you, John, for sitting in.